Hi, everyone. You are listening to Radio Cherry Bombe, and I'm your host, Carrie Diamond, coming to you from Newsstand Studios at Rockefeller Center in the heart of New York City. Today's guest is Katina Connaughton, the co-founder of SingleThread, the celebrated restaurant and farm in Healdsburg, California. Katina is so many things: a regenerative farmer, a mom, floral artist, and hospitality visionary. I got to spend time with Katina and her husband, Chef Kyle, earlier this year at the Lodge at Blue Sky in Park City, Utah, for a special food and film experience that they created called Throughline. It was a beautiful exploration of the artisans and farmers they work with, and Katina is going to tell us more about Throughline during our chat. But even more amazing is their personal story. They met at a punk rock concert, became high school sweethearts and young parents, and are still together decades later. And together, they're changing the world of fine dining. The journey wasn't always easy for Katina. She joins me in just a minute to share how she almost lost herself in pursuit of their dream and found herself and her power by literally digging in the dirt. The further I stuck my hands in the earth, she says, the more I felt like myself. Speaking of power, this is the second episode of our special Power Miniseries that we're doing to coincide with the new Power issue of Cherry Bombe's print magazine, which is out this week. We spotlighted more than 100 women in the worlds of food, drink, and hospitality who are using their power in interesting, inspiring, and innovative ways. The special Radio Cherry Bombe Power Series is brought to you by Veuve Clicquot, the iconic champagne house led to greatness by one of the most powerful women in the history of champagne, Madame Clicquot. Bold, brilliant, and ahead of her time, Madame Clicquot took over her late husband's champagne house at just 27 years old. In an era when women couldn't have bank accounts or run businesses, she defied expectations and led with vision and determination. Madame Clicquot established many firsts in the world of champagne: the first vintage champagne, the riddling table, and the blended rosé champagne. She took the world of champagne into the future and never looked back. Today, Veuve Clicquot honors her with the Maison's newest vintage cuvée, Le Grand Dame 2018, a champagne that embodies everything Madame Clicquot stood for: vision, drive, and audacity. This 25th vintage is made with 90% Pinot Noir, her favorite grape, and delivers a balance, finesse, and brightness that echoes the sun-kissed harvest from which it came. Staying true to the house's motto, only one quality, the finest. Elegant and precise, Le Grand Dame 2018 has delicate notes of citrus and floral, and a salinity that speaks to its deep roots and craftsmanship. As we raise a glass to powerful women everywhere, let's remember the original Grande Dame who poured her boldness into every bottle and changed the world of champagne forever. Learn more about Le Grand Dame 2018 at veuveclicquot.com. Now, let's check in with today's guest. Katina Connaughton, welcome to Radio Cherry Bombe.
Thank you for having me.
So exciting to have you here. It's so funny that we saw each other in Park City, Utah, and here we are in Hell's Kitchen.
I know,
New York.
I know. A bit of a contrast.
Just a little bit.
Yes.
Just a little bit. But welcome to New York.
Thank you. I feel welcomed.
Good. How's the city treating you?
You know what? It's been wonderful. Everyone has been so great. We have been staging the space where we are currently residing, and I went to Chelsea Garden Center and picked up a bunch of trees and planters, found some very gracious Uber drivers who carried it all back with me. And so, everyone has been lovely, and I love the stark contrast of the city life versus where we live out in the countryside, which is very different, very sleepy. There's a frequency about the city that is undeniably just energizing.
So many people in the food world live in New York City for at least a little bit, just to get that experience of the restaurants here and all those things, or maybe their career brings them here for whatever reason. But you've never lived here at all, right?
I have not.
Yeah.
No.
Do you think you could? You're such a California girl.
You know, that's a great question. Some days when I am visiting, I feel like I can. I feel like it would be really wonderful for me. I spend my life talking to plants and animals and really connected to the natural world. And so I think that I would learn a lot about myself here in the city, and it would be fabulous. But also, I'm almost 50. I'm pretty deeply rooted out in the countryside. So I don't know the exact answer to that question. I wouldn't say no to it. And I know that the country is so accessible here as well. And so you kind of have the best of both worlds.
I love that you said deeply rooted. I feel like that could be the title of your memoir.
Perhaps, yes, quite apt.
You're working here. You're not here on vacation, but I'm sure you want to sneak out and see a few things with your husband. What's on your list of things to see?
You know what? We are just wandering about. I mean, we had dumplings at midnight and went on a pizza crawl that actually ended at the first place because we ate so much. Visiting friends, eating delicious food, and then we're going up to the countryside, actually, and experiencing that mode of life. So we're just here to take it all in, open hearts, open minds.
Okay, so tell folks why you're here. Big project.
Yeah, big project. So we are here to share an experience with guests that we have really felt is extremely meaningful. It's really our opportunity to turn the focus away from us and onto this greater ecosystem that exists around us. It's been a great project. We are integrating 8 documentary-style films, short films, into a dining experience. And each night when we're highlighting a dish, we get to highlight just about 30, 40 seconds of the importance of this dish, why it exists in the first place. Whether it's the literal dish that it is served on, the ingredients, like whatever inspired it. And so it's kind of just the tip of the iceberg that we get to share. But really, what is so important and so meaningful for us is what's beneath the water. And that is this larger community that is doing really important social, cultural, environmental work. We're here to tell their stories.
It's really one of the most unique dining experiences I've ever had. The whole experience is called Throughline.
It is, yes.
And it's a documentary broken into 8 parts, like you said, and there's a corresponding course that goes with each. How did this all come about in the first place? Because when you explain it to people, oh, you're going to sit there and watch a movie and then eat and then watch and then eat, it's hard for some people to wrap their heads around it. It's an incredibly beautiful experience, but it's not one we've really seen in the food world before.
Yeah, thank you. I think it really just goes to the ability to have a platform and to tell that greater story. These stories are worthy of being told. They're people who are walking through life with so much integrity and doing really important work out there. And all these crafts people and environmentalists and beyond. We get to be like the front-facing stewards of this larger community. It feels like a tremendous sense of responsibility to be able to share their stories.
How did the whole idea come about?
Well, there is a movie theater in town, beloved movie theater, community spot that closed down during the pandemic. So we kept walking by it and saw it was for lease. There is a new, smaller art house film center opening in town. And so we kind of had that box ticked and just started to imagine what could be done in this space and always wanting to kind of push the boundaries and really be able to illuminate this larger community around us. We realized, well, what if we take on this theater and create an experience where we're able to tell stories throughout a dining experience? So it was very organic in the sense that this theater just presented itself as an opportunity, and we just wanted to be able to take what we do to the next level and be storytellers.
So is this sort of the equivalent of a Broadway show, kind of heading out to Boston to test the show a little bit?
I think
Are you
so.
kind of testing it on the road before
we
you
really are. Yes,
bring it to Broadway?
We are, and all of the guests thus far have been so gracious and really accepting of something that feels a little bit new. It's a little bit disruptive, I think, to what a conventional dining experience is, and I feel like it's being embraced. People are leaving fulfilled, enriched, thinking, processing what they just saw, what they learned. That for us is everything.
We'll be right back with today's guest. The new issue of Cherry Bomb's print magazine is out right now, and it's our first ever Power issue. We spotlight more than 100 women doing amazing things in the world of food, drink, and hospitality, including today's guest, Katina Connaughton. You can order a single issue or subscribe at cherrybombe.com. If you are a subscriber already, thank you. You can also pick up a copy at your favorite bookstore or magazine shop. It was just so nice to see all these artisans and fisher folk and other farmers and growers and producers celebrated in a way that they're not usually. When you go into a restaurant, what do you have? The menu, maybe,
Yes.
to tell their story on. Or sometimes you train the servers to be able to come out and talk a little bit about the producers. And it's always sort of like, does the guest want to hear this? Do they not want to hear this?
Sure.
I mean, I'm a nerd. Put it all on the menu. I'll read it, recite it to me. That's
Same.
great.
Mm-hmm.
As long as I'm not starving, put some nuts or bread on my table and I'll listen to anything,
Right.
But this is just so different and so special. It was so nice to see some people we know and love, like Stephanie Mutz, who's the famous sea urchin diver from out in California. Just lots of artisans people will recognize. How did you even go about choosing who would be in the documentary?
Well, we could honestly film several more documentaries because this community around us that enables us to be able to do what we do is so vast. Their stories are so, as I said, worthy of being told. So I think what we did is we just kind of honed in on what we felt were some very pivotal people in our lives and just kind of ran with it. There was, of course, the accessibility. We needed to make sure that we were going to have entry points into these storytellers and be able to follow a bit of their life with us. And we went to Japan and filmed there. And Stephanie is a dear friend of ours, and we love to tell her stories. In fact, I mean, she's the quintessential example of creating a business where she is supplying a luxury product, but the luxury product is really the byproduct of the environmental work that she's doing.
As you just said, part of this was filmed in Japan. This was not a small undertaking. What was it from start to finish, and how many places did you have to travel? What was it like having cameras follow you? All those things.
Well, we have been filming with a dear friend of ours, Justin Taylor Smith. In fact, he was just nominated for an Emmy for another documentary that he did, and he makes it very seamless, I feel. Because he is so warm and so welcoming, the cameras didn't feel invasive at all. He was just bringing cameras and microphones into our space, which, of course, it does feel a little unnatural to a degree. But I think the way he went about it, it just felt very, very graceful.
What was the process? How long was it?
We have been working on this for about a year.
Oh, wow.
So off and on.
And the whole filming took about a year?
It did, filming, editing, and then just, of course, trying to realize what this could be and be able to roll it out.
Mm-hmm.
This is all still very much in the preliminary phases, but we feel confident that it could go somewhere, and we're just really proud of it. We're really proud to be able to tell these stories.
You could tell how proud you two are and how proud your team is. And that was another nice part of Throughline. Each team member really got to come out and talk about what they do and their connection to the people in the film. I thought that was so special.
Yeah, thank you. We're proud of this team. Just to be able to work alongside them inspires us every day.
It's so hard to have a restaurant these days. Everybody out there, oh my God, everybody out there is just holding it together. God bless you. And we're all rooting for you. I'm so happy for your success. You and Kyle have done so well. And just to hear that you were able to buy a theater makes my heart sing, because now you get to do all these other interesting things and you get to hire more people and really push the idea of, like, what does it mean to be a chef today? What does it mean to have a restaurant?
Yeah, definitely. I didn't realize was going to be so massive in our lives is to continue to find ways to create opportunities for this team to grow with us. We have an incredible team. They have so much potential and are so motivated, so ambitious. We want to be able to create different facets of the business for them to continue to launch their professional careers.
And also just inspiring everyone to think differently. Pop-ups are super popular right now, but just really reinforcing that a restaurant doesn't have to be what it's been for centuries.
Yeah, definitely. And it's not all about us. I mean, even when guests come to SingleThread, we tell them, like, this is your journey, your miracle. This is about you and time shared with your guests. We're just here to facilitate this and to help create a memory for you. And so this experience is not unlike that. It's like, while, yes, once again, we get to present the dish, we are the ones who are talking about it. The films are the opportunity to tell those stories. And it's just so important. We couldn't do what we do without this greater community around us. And it's so important to continue to support them. I mean, I was just walking through the city yesterday. There are modern conveniences all around us and franchises. And in and amongst these franchises, there was this little Italian deli, and it had a line out the door, which was fabulous to see that this multi-generational deli was the busiest place, of course, on the block. But, I think oftentimes people just kind of fall a little bit victim to the modern conveniences. And so if we don't continue to support these people who are doing just really great things, then they'll cease to exist. We don't want that to happen.
Okay, let's talk about you. I know that's your least favorite topic to talk about.
It truly is.
You are a farmer. You never knew you were going to be a farmer one day. How does one become a farmer by accident?
It's a great question. I think one becomes whatever they're meant to be when they are seeking their true identity. And that is how I fell into this role. I did not know that was going to be my path, but I cannot imagine doing anything else.
So let's talk about where you are today, and then we're going to time travel because there's a lot to your story. So SingleThread today is a restaurant and a farm.
It is.
You are in charge of the farm.
Yes. So the farm is 24 acres. I am farming just right in the heart of wine country, and it is a beautiful space to be.
Healdsburg,
It
right?
is in Healdsburg. It's
Okay.
about 10 minutes, if even, from the restaurant itself. We purchased this property in 2020. We were on leased land prior to. We could talk about, of course, how humbling the natural world is. During that time, we were on leased land. We flooded. They coined it the 100-year flood. We experienced that about 3 times in 5 years. So the last flood, we were about 11 feet underwater and realized, it's requiring so many resources and so much heart and soul to continue to rebuild this space. And so we needed to move on and find our forever farm, and we were lucky enough to be able to do that. And we are growing right in the middle of wine country, so we're surrounded by vineyards, which is a beautiful space to be, but also it's very much monocropped with grapes, and so we're able to bring a lot of biodiversity to the land. Everything is hand-scaled. We're really just taking a lot of time and care and rehabilitating this space, and it has been extremely fulfilling to see it just become so vigorous and prolific. Everything is moving along the way it needs to be. Of course, not without its challenges, but we accept those.
Sure. Fire, floods, so many things you have
Fires, floods,
deal with in California.
Absolutely,
Mhm.
yes.
What's going on the farm right now?
So we just planted our tomatoes and peppers. Peas, snap peas are absolutely singing. Our first sweet peas are blooming. Anemones, ranunculus. Our carrots are gorgeous. It is just such an exciting time out there.
The planning must be so much fun.
It is. It's a puzzle. All of the crop rotation each season is this wonderful puzzle. In fact, we've been there for 4 years. And so we have now come full circle with a lot of our crops this year. So it's really exciting to see.
How have you educated yourself?
A lot of trial and error. I work with incredible people. I have a team that really has become my mentor and mentors in a lot of ways. I feel like when you open your heart and your mind to nature, it really speaks to you. You just have to pay attention to it. In fact, there's so much that we can learn from the natural world. A lot of it also is very intuitive. And while, of course, there is a lot of science that factors into what we do, so much of it is really just being guided by the sun and the moon and ensuring that we're paying attention to what is happening around us.
And you have a farm stand.
We do. We have a farm stand. We have a CSA program, lots of different workshops and opportunities for education and just to come out and just exist out there and take a little bit of time to de-stress and be one with the land.
When is the farm stand open? Is it a 7-day-a-week operation?
It is 5 days a week. We kind of change seasonally. Winter goes a little bit quiet for us while we're growing all year. It does get kind of cold and wet and a bit muddy out there. And so,
But you're still open
but we
year-round.
are still open, yes. So we're like 10 to 4 each day. And that's variable.
And what can I buy at the farm stand?
All manner of vegetables, fruits, cut flowers, and then a lot of products that we make, a lot of preservation products because, of course, like there is such a bounty throughout different seasons, and our culinary team loves to preserve that bounty. So that is on offer, as well as a lot of donabe, different things that we cook with in the restaurant, and different things that, of course, we're inspired by, and products that a lot of the artisans that we have formed relationships carry.
All right, I have a lot of follow-up questions. You all love a donabe like nobody else.
Yes, we do.
Tell us what that is.
So donabe is an earthenware pot, and the clay comes from a lake called Lake Biwa, so it's very fossilized clay, very even heat retention throughout this pot. While it kind of harkens back to old times, it's a means of modern cooking as well. It's incredible. So we use them pretty much for everything. My husband Kyle wrote a book on them. I am not the expert. However, I'd love to dabble, and they haven't done me wrong.
It's so beautiful watching your team work with those because they are like pieces of art.
They really are. They're lovely.
And go back to the preserves and other things that you sell that the team makes. What can folks expect to find?
Yes, so we make this great, we call it a chunky layu or a farm layu. So a chili sauce that is just so delicious. And it's chilies from the farm, peppers from the farm, negi, which is a long Japanese onion, garlic, sesame seeds that we grow on the farm. And so that's probably one of our favorites. Then all other preserves, whether they're strawberries. We grow so many strawberries. We lived in Japan for a few years, and the town where we lived was famous for strawberries. And so my goal has been to grow strawberries as delicious as those in this little town, tiny town in Hokkaido. Luckily, we're able to. They're gorgeous. And so lots of preservation projects there.
How do you work with Kyle and the culinary team? Do you suggest things that you love to grow? Do they suggest things that they would love to work with?
It's a little bit of both. It has taken us a little bit of time to develop a relationship and a means of communication that is super effective between the farm and the kitchen. I mean, I'm married to the chef. He's married to the farmer. So we get to have a lot of pillow talk about turnips, etc. However, the team, of course, is much larger than Kyle and I. And so we have created these really beautiful channels of communication. And it's a lot of they inspire us and we want to inspire them. And there's nothing more inspiring for chefs, I feel, than bringing in this beautifully colorful, textural produce from the field as it's coming in, and it's starting to just hit that absolute peak of flavor and texture. It's just gorgeous into the kitchen and creating those means of inspiration that just stokes the fires of creativity unlike anything as a line item on an availability list. And so we're constantly bringing product in. They're coming out to the field, doing field walks every week. But it's really just keeping those lines of communication open. We want to inspire them, and they definitely inspire us.
Are there any fruit or veg that you sort of have to advocate for?
Oh, that's
that chefs don't love as much as you?
There are some things that we grow specifically for us and our team that we do not grow for the kitchen. So we kind of have like our little like farm team plot that we keep for ourselves. But no, they're pretty accepting of everything and challenge us, and we love to challenge them as well.
Yeah. What are some of the things on your plot that don't make it to the kitchen?
Jalapenos, cilantro. Like there's just some things that don't necessarily fall into the narrative of the menu as gracefully as they fall into the menu within our home kitchens. So we grow them for us.
Do you have a farm kitchen?
We do have a farm kitchen. Actually, we just built our family home on the farm and just moved in. So we have a studio kitchen where we're really excited to be able to do some fun things in there and just to have our home. Talk about deeply rooted. We lived such a transient lifestyle for so long. So this is a really big deal for us to have been able to build a home and be able to like truly have that stability.
That's wonderful.
Thanks.
So you have so many components. You've got, like we just talked about, the restaurant, the farm, the theater that will be coming. You also have a hotel.
We do. We have 5 guest rooms. Yes.
How did that come about?
Well, we always wanted the experience for guests to feel as though they were coming to our home. We love breakfast. We love just very genuine, warm hospitality. So having the 5 guest rooms allows for guests to feel that intimacy coming to the home of a husband and wife who are a farmer and chef, and just be able to go upstairs after their dining experience. And then, of course, we love breakfast. Breakfast is just another expression of the farm and creativity of the chefs. And so we really wanted to be able to provide that.
Do you think you'll ever do like a cafe or something
In the
just
theater
different from what you have right now?
space, we are working on a patisserie. The future's unwritten, and so we're so open to it. We're currently working on these specific projects that we've been talking about, but yeah, we're so open.
You mentioned to everybody that you spent time in Japan. I want to go back to the beginning a little bit so folks will understand how you wound up in Japan. When did you and Kyle meet each other?
So Kyle and I met when we were 15 and 16. We're just babies. We met at a punk rock show. It was love at first sight. It was it was quite the cosmic connection in our teenage years. We just had such a connection, and I met him that night, and then he ended up at my high school just 2 months later, and I said, "Oh my gosh, there he is," and he said, "There she is." We've been together for 33 years this year. It's been a really wonderful journey.
That is unbelievable. So when you met each other, did you have hopes and dreams for the future? Did you have any sense of what you wanted to maybe be when you grew up? I mean, you were 15 and 16.
Yeah, I can't say that I did necessarily. He wanted to be a chef from a very young age. He knew at 9 years old exactly what he wanted to do. My journey was definitely not that straightforward. I was very open to possibilities. I just knew also that I wanted to see the world. I wasn't raised in a very global environment, and I knew there was so much more out there than what I had been exposed to. As soon as I graduated high school, I worked, saved all my money, and bought my first international trip to England to go with a friend who had family out there, and got my passport. And so it was kind of the beginning for me to see the world. Little did I know that when I returned, I would be getting pregnant. So things changed a little bit. However, we still had big dreams, Kyle and I, and we've got this little one that we're going to have to raise and shape.
You had a few Romeo and Juliet years there.
We certainly did, yes. And so
Not everyone was on board with.
Not everyone was on board, no. And we had a lot of people tell us that we were crazy, but we still wanted to pursue Kyle's culinary dreams. And my dreams, of course, kind of took shape as a mother and a young wife. And then we had our second daughter, and were able to work towards what would begin, I think, one of the greatest adventures of our life, which was moving to a very small fishing village in Hokkaido, Japan.
Why was Kyle so drawn to Japan? That was such a huge influence on him as a young man.
Yeah, it really was. I don't know if past lives exist. Perhaps they do. Perhaps he spent time there. Perhaps he was Japanese. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but it's very much ingrained in him. His dad took him for sushi when he was very young, and that made such an impact. His parents had Japanese foreign exchange students come and spend time in their home. The more he learned about the culture and just, I think, the food itself and beautiful simplicity of it, the more he felt connected to himself. So it's just something that he's very drawn to.
How old were you both when you moved to Japan?
27, I believe. It's a lifetime ago.
And you didn't move to a big city. Tell us about the city you moved to,
we were
or
in
town.
Tiny fishing village in the North Island. It was famous for strawberries, pork, and scallops. Every year they would have a festival that would culminate these things together. It was just wonderfully odd and Japanese. And it was very humbling. We had just each other, and our daughters went to public school there, so they learned the language very quickly. They were fluent. I was extremely humbled because they were communicating for me at train stations, doctors' offices. I learned a lot of compassion for those who have English as a second language here in this country. We had to learn a lot about each other and how to lean on one another and really just seek that comfort and strength in each other when times felt a little challenging.
And Kyle's told the story. He was working round the clock.
He was.
How did you deal with that, I'm guessing, sense of isolation you must have felt?
Yeah, definitely. I think I was so in tune with ensuring that our daughters felt secure at that time, that they felt that they were strengthened by this experience, that I threw so much energy into being a mom and ensuring their safety. Of course, Japan is very safe, but we were living in a very snowy environment. We had to drive 25 minutes to do our laundry. Like, there was just a lot of things that were challenging, very different for me. I was so focused on ensuring that the comforts of their lives were felt around them that became my role.
Did the interest in farming start to take root there?
It did in hindsight. So I kind of attribute my journey akin to nature where, oftentimes there are seeds that get dispersed via wind and other events, and they are not able to germinate and flourish until there's a disruption, whether it's a wildfire or a frost. Like, something really has to happen for them to become what they're meant to be. And so I feel like that time in Japan was one of those seeds that was planted within and was lying dormant until there was a disruption, of course. It was the first time that I was really exposed to seasonality and locality, and coming from a suburb in Los Angeles area, didn't really have a connection to my food systems. I didn't grow up with fresh food around me. And so this was really eye-opening to me. And we had farms all around us and really leaned into that seasonality. It was life-changing.
The next chapter brings you to England.
Yes.
Why did you move to England?
So we moved to England, where Kyle had received a position as the head of research and development at the Fat Duck, which was really an extraordinary time.
Heston Blumenthal's
With Heston
restaurant.
Blumenthal,
Mhm.
yes. And so it was an exceptional time for the Fat Duck itself, for Kyle. It's really shaped a lot of who he is as a chef and as a person. And so we were there when we found ourselves in Henley-on-Thames. We were about 45 minutes outside of London and also living in the countryside. Just a new mode of life to have to learn how to navigate through. English, of course, was a very easy language to communicate in. It was different culturally, and I think we were a little bit shell-shocked coming from tiny village in Japan where we were very much embraced by the community, very taken care of and guided through life there, to feeling like, in some ways, like a little bit more isolated in a country where we had all of the conveniences that we were accustomed to.
Interesting. I was going to ask about what I imagine was cultural whiplash.
Definitely, yes.
That also sounds like a job that Kyle just couldn't say no to.
Oh, yeah, it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
But how did you feel about having to uproot your life once again?
I just felt like I needed to trust the process, and it was best for our family, and it was best for his career. And at this point, we had thrown so much into his career. It was an exciting opportunity for our daughters. I really wanted them to grow up globally minded. We knew that, of course, being in England, we would have the rest of Europe kind of within the backyard and accessible to us. And so we would have the opportunity to travel more.
You do get a little bit more into farming.
I do.
In England.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
We were living on this Victorian estate with all of these gardens. They were absolutely gorgeous, but a lot of the culinary crops that were grown there were grown for ornamental purposes. I was also working as
explain to us. Like ornamental squashes and kale, things
beets.
like that.
Each beet held a very specific purpose in the aesthetics of these gardens. And so I was going to the local grocery store to buy beets to prepare for the family that I was cooking for. I was working as a personal chef at the time. And mind you, had no professional cooking experience at all. So I was really stepping outside my comfort
Were you
zone again.
faking it till you made it?
Oh, definitely calling Kyle a lot, reading every book I could. I mean, actually, I learned so much about myself. This was important for me. I unlocked a lot within myself unknowingly, but I was so stressed out every day, like just trying to figure out how to be what I needed to be in that moment. But I did learn a lot. So anyways, I was going to the grocery store purchasing produce and seeing these beautiful vegetables growing right there on site and starting to just kind of challenge what was happening. Actually, we just went back 2 years ago to visit that home and family, and they have a full culinary garden now.
Oh, that must make you so happy.
It just warmed my heart to no end. Yes. So, anyways, it just kind of became undeniable as well that just the importance of having all of that accessible and being able to utilize it and how nutrient dense it is when you're pulling it straight from the earth and that earth is alive and serving it to people who, really want to feel invigorated. And so I made that connection at that point, but it wasn't without challenge.
Did you start doing some small-scale farming over there?
Not really. I mean, I dabbled a bit in the gardens, but they had a full team and I befriended the gardeners. And so I learned a lot through them, but my focus was really on cooking. So I spent a lot of time in the kitchen where I was able to make the connection between nutrients and how we prepare it and serve it. Also, just kind of learn that means of hospitality as well.
So the next chapter,
The next chapter.
back to California.
Yes. Next chapter, back to California.
Were you ready to come home?
I was ready. I was really ready. First year in England was glorious. The weather was beautiful. It was just, I remember when we arrived.
Says no one, though, about England.
Well, wait. It was so beautiful. I remember arriving there and the sky was a shade of blue I had never seen before. The clouds were fluffy. It was just romantic and so amazing. And then it rained every year thereafter. And so I think that started to get to me a little bit, but also I had been away from home for a long time. Our daughters were getting older. I was getting older. I had thrown so much of my life into being a mom, being a wife, being a supporter of this family, which I love beyond anything in this world. But I started to feel very empty. When I looked within, I was also just a little bit scared. Like I've given so much to everyone else, I don't really know who I am. And so the return to California was profound, to say the least.
So you decide you're going to come back. Was that for a specific opportunity?
So we came back to California. Our daughters were getting older. Our oldest daughter was to start high school. And so we thought it'd be great for her to have that full for consistent years in high school. And so that was a big motivation. But we came back. And as I mentioned, I just didn't know who I was. I saw Kyle and his career was just really just gaining momentum. And he was becoming more self-assured. Our daughters were growing into these just exceptional, just young women. I needed to figure out who I was. And so I think through like a lot of discomfort in my life, I took some steps to seek out some education and different avenues of inspiration. To be like totally transparent, I really found my path when I was completely broken and needed to find myself and started gardening just kind of as something that I felt very drawn to. And much like I was saying, those seeds had been planted within me and from earlier experiences, and it just started to take shape. I realized that nurturing these crops from seed to harvest was very comfortable for me, very fulfilling. It just felt graceful in a way that I hadn't for a very long time. So the further I stuck my hands in the earth, the more I felt like myself. And so I just really dove into that and continued to further educate myself. I found where I was meant to be, and then it started to make sense where I could collaborate with Kyle, but I didn't originally see myself within this dream of having a restaurant. This is also where SingleThread started to take shape because originally we didn't have the farm component. When I discovered who I was meant to be and really what brought me joy and what brought me a purpose in life, that's kind of where the whole concept began to take life.
That's incredible. How long ago did you open SingleThread?
8 years ago.
Wow.
Yes.
We don't talk about people's ages very much on the show, but do you mind me asking, how old were you when all this was going on, when you realized that farming was your calling?
I was mid-30s.
Because a lot of folks feel like if you don't know these things early,
Oh, no, I would.
you can't discover them later in life.
Yeah, well, may I be an example to many. And, it's not the polished story that I think some people want to hear. It's not as straightforward as Kyle's. And I would measure myself to my partner, who was very self-assured and very focused, just had so much certainty as to who he was and was meant to be, and felt so empty next to him. I found myself much later in life. It feels good to have that self-assurance. Actually, the older I get, the more certain I am that I'm doing what I'm meant to be doing.
Maybe it's the name SingleThread. People want it to be nice and neat.
Yeah, maybe. That's true. Yeah.
Sometimes it's
Yeah.
not.
But it is a little gritty. It's a little dirty and
Knots in that thread.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of beauty for me flourished from a very dark and broken place.
What would you tell folks out there who maybe are right now, they think they're too old, they think they studied the wrong thing in school, they have the wrong job? The world is a really challenging place right now.
Yeah, it really is. I would just say that, I don't know, open your mind and your heart to possibilities and, seek opportunity where you can and follow joy. I think a lot about ambition and our purpose in life and how we feel so much pressure to change the world. I don't expect to change the world by any means. If I can have an impact on this little tiny space of earth that I get to tend to, if I can maybe teach somebody about farming practices and or show them how to fall in love with seasonal flowers, or just even acknowledge flowers or nature around them, then that for me is just a life well lived. So I think defining what joy and a life well lived means to you and just in chasing that. But never give up.
Never give up, absolutely. Who are some of your heroes?
The people that I surround myself with every day. They work through adversity. They inspire me each day. They are exceptional. I get to walk alongside my heroes. My heroes are my daughters, who are the necessary change that needs to happen in this world. They have grown up and developed into these very strong and courageous women, and I learned so much from them at all times. Our oldest daughter is getting her master's degree right now in feminist medieval literature, and she is just so cool. She's a drummer, and she's just incredible. So to think that these teenagers brought just the most amazing human into the world is just it's everything to me. And our youngest daughter is so fabulous, and she is a bass player. So both daughters are musicians, and she has such a big heart, and she is spending her life in pursuit of dog rescue and like anything else that is just really community driven. That just, it's so wonderful for us.
Oh, they both sound awesome.
They're awesome.
And you completely lit up talking about them.
They're way cooler than we could ever be.
Are you and Kyle still into punk rock?
We are. We are into punk rock. We're into many things. After being together for so long and being through so much together, also, we have hit a stride that feels really nice. Like we choose each other. I think in the beginning of our relationship, of course, we were so young and had so much to figure it out. We were just this frightened family and really needed to make something of our lives for these humans that we brought into the world and, of course, for ourselves. But we've gone past that, and now we're older, and we see each other for who we are. We accept one another, and we choose each other. So it feels really nice to not have any conflict in our bones as to who we're meant to be with.
I like that was your answer about punk rock. That managing to still be together and in love is a very punk rock thing.
Definitely. I think a lot of the punk rock spirit actually has allowed us to get to where we are in this lifetime. A lot of having to be against the grain, a lot of grit, a lot of perseverance, a lot of people telling us, no, you're crazy to do that. And, turning that around into, well, we'll show you. This is important to us. We're going to do it.
Well, you two look very punk rock also. I absolutely loved seeing that prom photo of the two of you when you were, 16 and 17, and Kyle's got the spiky,
just great,
platinum blonde hair. But today, I think if someone were to bump into you, they would think you had been in an indie rock band and, were maybe getting the band back together to go play Coachella or something.
That's really nice. Thank you. I think it's funny. I have these tattoos, of course, all over me. Well, so when Kyle and I met, he had some tattoos, and I just thought he was the coolest. So 2 months later, we got each other's names tattooed on us. And needless to say, my parents were very displeased. They still are. But I also am a very gentle soul. And so I think for me, it feels like I've enjoyed having a little bit of what maybe could seem intimidating. However, all my tattoos are flowers and, just really lovely things. But I've enjoyed having a little bit more of a tougher persona. But really, it's just flowers.
I don't know if this is the right way to put this, but the least punk rock thing about you two is probably this world you find yourselves in now of Michelin stars and 50 Best. And that's a whole rarefied world that you didn't grow up in necessarily, but now find yourself in because of your commitment to yourselves, your team, your community, commitment to excellence. How do you square those two things?
I think we pursue our love of being able to cook and farm and support this greater community. And of course, hospitality runs through all of that for us. It is truly coming from a place of authentic self. So it is with that punk rock spirit. So we do it in a way to where we don't feel like we need to conform to these Michelin or fine dining standards. We do it in a way that feels very true to who we are.
That comes through.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm not going to put you through the speed round, but I will ask you the final question, and you can't answer, Kyle, so it's going to be painful for you. But if you had to be trapped on a desert island with one food celebrity, who would it be and why?
One food celebrity? And it can't be Kyle. He's my favorite chef. I'm going to say Farmer Lee Jones because we're going to grow our own food. And I find him to be so charming. I'm going to take the farmer route. Food celebrity, indeed. I'm going to go with Farmer Lee.
I'd want to be stuck with you.
Oh.
We would never starve.
We would never starve.
No.
Oh, my gosh.
No.
We would just be island fed the entire time.
All right. Well, Katina, thank you. I know you guys are so busy right now with the Throughline pop-up. I really appreciate you coming up here and talking to us.
Thank you, Carrie. It's always a joy seeing you.
That's it for today's show. Thank you to Veuve Clicquot for supporting Radio Cherry Bombe and to Katina Connaughton. We'll be back next Wednesday for another Power episode. If you missed our first Power episode with Kristen Kish, best-selling author and Top Chef host, be sure to check it out. Our theme song is by the band Tra La La. Joseph Hazen is a studio engineer at Newsstand Studios at Rockefeller Center in New York City. Special thanks to the team at CityVox Studios. Our producers are Taka Zen, Catherine Baker, and Jenna Sadu, and our editorial coordinator is Sophie Kais. Thanks for listening, everybody. You're the bomb. And don't forget, use your power for good.